Now for our story. The new Mrs. Meade and her husband, Bill, had retired quite early this evening. By 9:30, the curtains were drawn, and the newlyweds, resplendent in new dressing gowns, were propped with pillows surrounded with books and magazines. Now, with the elaborate preparations for an evening of reading in bed completed, the young wife sighs contentedly. There is silence for a moment. Then she glances at Bill, who is happily absorbed in his book.
Bill? You comfortable?
Mm-hmm.
That's good. Are you sure? Bill. What are you reading?
You mean, what was I reading?
I'm sorry, darling. I feel like talking.
Yeah, evidently. Okay, what shall we talk about? I can see I'm not going to get any reading done. And it's such a good book, too. I was just about to find out who done it.
Oh, Bill, shame on you. A mystery story.
Hey, there's nothing wrong with reading a good mystery. Some mighty fine writing in them. Why, I read somewhere that even Einstein reads them. Or was it Don Amici? Anyway, it was some scientist.
Dope. But honestly, you ought to read something important. You know, improve your mind.
Is that so? What's that magazine you've got over there?
You mean this one?
Yeah. It doesn't look very uplifting from here. Siren, a magazine for exotic women. I can see that's very intellectual stuff.
Oh, well, I borrowed it from Lily.
Lily? Ye gods.
What do you mean, Lily, ye gods?
Well, Lily doesn't need to read up on glamour. She's doing okay as far as I can see.
You think so?
Well, sure.
I don't know about that, Bill. I'm sort of worried about Lily.
Worried? Well, how come, sweetheart?
Well, you know that day Randy and I went over to the Porter building about his new real estate office?
Yeah.
Well, I went out to get some sandwiches for Randy and me, and I ran into Lily. She was on her way up to say hello to Randy. Well, when I came back, Lily was dashing down the stairs. She looked upset, and I asked her what was wrong.
Well, what was?
You know, Bill, I'm positive she's in love with Randy.
You think so? Well, supposing she is. Lily could do a lot worse. And so could Randy.
Of course he could. That's just what I'm talking about.
Maybe I'm mistaken about them, honey.
No, I'm sure Lily's really in love with him. Lately, I've been thinking about a lot of little things that have happened. That time I wanted to have Randy and Lily to dinner, for instance.
Hey, that's a good idea. Why don't we do it?
I doubt if Lily would come now. She acted so darn funny the time I asked her. Said something about maybe I should consult Randy first.
I don't get it. I thought they always got along swell together. Seems to me Randy's always been nice to her.
Nice? Bill, when a girl's in love, she doesn't want the man to... I mean, nice is such a...
Okay, I get it. You don't have to take that patient tone with me, baby. But look, you're basing everything you say on the assumption that Lily's in love with Randy.
I know she is.
She's told you that?
No, but she doesn't have to, not now. And Randy needs a girl like Lily. She'd be wonderful for him. She's lovely to look at, and she's smart and self-sufficient and loyal. She's the sort who would make Randy a wonderful, devoted wife. He makes me so mad if he had any sense at all.
Wait a minute, darling. Wait a minute. I grant you it sounds like a good idea. But that's something for Randy and Lily to realize. Oh, why get yourself in a tailspin?
I'll tell you why. Because I think Randy would be in love with Lily if it weren't for Kit.
Well, don't you think that's a pretty wild statement?
No. Didn't you tell me yourself that Kit had gotten very serious about Randy while she was at the sanitarium? Even Aunt Mary admits that she's completely dependent on him and so forth.
Well, what gives you the idea that Randy's fallen for Kit?
Why, ever since he got mixed up with her case, he's been changing. Haven't you noticed? At first, he was just going over to the sanitarium to see her just that one time. And then he found out about her having this fixation or whatever it was, so he kept going back. And naturally, the more he saw her, the worse it was. That girl's so darn clever. I don't blame Randy because Kit knows just how to get her way with a man without their realizing what's happened to them. She's like a vampire or something.
I'm sorry, Sonny. But really, I know she uses her femininity to some extent, and very effectively, too. But don't all women?
Not the way she does. And it seems to me I recall your telling me at various times how you were deceived by her use of her femininity.
Now, wait just a minute. I never put all the blame on Kit. I think I was pretty much of a lunkhead when I let myself fall for the tricks Kit used.
All men are gullible with a woman like that.
Well, you aren't giving Randy much credit. Emotionally, I'd say he was a pretty mature sort of a guy.
And you mean you think my idea is absurd, that Randy couldn't possibly fall in love with Kit?
Now, look, one reason we can't get any place with this discussion is that you're basing everything you say on your knowledge of Kit as she was, as she used to be. And she had her faults then, many serious ones.
You mean she's different now than she used to be?
Look, Peggy, you haven't seen the girl or talked to her in months. I have. And the way Kit acted the last time I saw her, well, I'd say she's developing into a pretty swell person.
Kit Calvert, a swell person? How can you possibly trust her? Oh, Bill, you're just as bad as the rest of them.
No, Peggy, there really was a change in her. Why, her whole attitude's changed. And if she can develop an outlook, a way of thinking that matches up with that beautiful face, well, believe me, she'd be a pretty terrific person.
Bill, I don't see how you can talk this way. After all we've been through because of Kit, after all the terrible things she's done to us.
I haven't forgotten, darling, but that was then, and this is now. People do change, Peggy.
Maybe it's too bad this miraculous change in Kit didn't take place a long time ago. If it had, maybe you and she...
Hey, wait a minute. Now, you shouldn't even think a thing like that, let alone say it.
Oh, what's the use of my saying anything?
Where are you going?
No place.
You'll catch cold sitting by that open window. Oh, come on, Peggy. Stop being foolish and come back to bed.
Foolish? You think it's foolish because I'm unhappy over this?
Well, why should you be unhappy?
If you don't know, there's no point in my telling.
Is it because we've differed about this Randy business? Or because of the way I've talked about Kit? Peggy, you can't be jealous of someone who no longer exists. I mean, at least not for me.
We don't seem to understand each other, Bill. It seems to me that this shows that there's a basic difference in our way of thinking. A difference that... Go ahead and laugh.
Well, where's your sense of humor, honey? And your common sense. Now, look here, Mrs. Meade. You're not only all wrong, but you're going to catch your death of cold to boot. You march right back to bed. Come on. Because if you don't, I'm not coming after you. Even though I love you more than anything in the world.
Do you really, Bill?
Of course I do.
Well, all right, then.
There. That's more like it.
It was a little chilly. Bill, I'm sorry. I don't know what got into me.
I think I understand, sweetheart.
I suppose, in a way, I'm still jealous of Kit, even though I don't want to be.
And even though you've no reason to be.
I know that, really, I do. All right, I'll go along with you for a minute. Suppose Kit has changed. Suppose she's no longer deceitful, self-centered, and so forth. Still, because of her background, her family, and the type of person she is, there are certain things that are bound to remain the same. Right?
Check.
I know you seem to doubt that Randy's fallen for her. All right, but he is involved in some way. How would you feel about Randy and Kit as a combination? Would you feel good about it? Would you feel that he had someone who'd understand him? Someone dependable? Someone he could count on?
No. I guess I'd have my doubts.
Well, there you are. That's all I meant. And here's Lily, who's in love with him. And she'd be so perfect for him if only he could see it.
Yeah, I admit I think they'd make a good combination, all right. But, as I said, darling, you can't make a man fall in love.
You can give him a good push in the right direction. And that's just what I intend to do, Bill.
Now, wait a minute, Peggy. Look, there's too much that you don't know for certain about this.
But I am certain.
Don't try to shuffle people's lives around. I know you have the best intentions in the world. You think you're doing them a favor. But believe me, you can end up by doing them a lot of harm. Maybe hurting someone.
I know, but not this time. No one's going to be hurt, Bill. You'll see.
Peggy spoke with complete confidence, but she has no idea of the promise Randy's given to Kit Calvert. A promise that he would wait until she was released from prison. If Peggy should be successful at what she has in mind, if Randy should become more aware of Lily Devon, yes, Bill would be right. Someone would get hurt.